This is the story of Lake Gino. We will call it a lake because that sounds quite grand. Lake Gino is the latest addition to our 6th-generation home place. As I sat on the back porch and considered the small woods that builds as a thicket at the end of the lawn and meanders into a stream bed surrounded by oaks, bays, and sweet gums, blackberry brambles and muscadine vines weaved their way to the sun, and the fruits of the vine brought the summer gold into my young soul. For nearly 5 decades, I roamed the woods. As a boy, I built tree houses. My brother, sister, and I constructed dams in the stream bed and made little swimming holes for ourselves and a few water moccasins as well. As I sat on the back porch, I thought about the next 4 decades. The 22 acres of woods is more than adequate for my wildlife rambles, but maybe I should have one last dam built in the little hollow behind my boyhood home. I will keep walking the land, but my tree climbing days are past. I thought it might be time to start fishing. I called William Herndon, who recently built a 7,500-foot runway nearby for a little airplane landing strip in the woods. Mr. Herndon and his father have built ponds, roads, and subdivisions all across Georgia. Mr. Herndon brought his laser and flagged how the water would creep up to the edge of the lawn and pole barn. Building a pond is a science that relies on geometry, but making a pond is a thing of beauty, which relies on having a heavy equipment operator with an artistic eye. This pond would not be a plain oval, but a watery representation of the topography. Valleys and hills would remain underneath, and the water would conform to the lay of the land. One of the most important factors is good old Georgia gumbo clay. Ponds are not so much as dug. Rather, a dam is built, which blocks off an extant depression. 2 springs fed the stream of my boyhood with cool, clear water. The springs flow into a hollow, and Mr. Herndon decided the best place to build the dam. The dam is constructed of clay that is packed into a trapezoid shape, wider at the bottom than at the top. The sides are sloped. Water is heavy and exerts strong pressure on the dam. The dam is 80 feet wide at the base and rises about 15 feet high. The top of the dam is 20 feet wide. Working with a professional pond builder was a real plus. We customized the pond so that the water would rise into the first bay of the pole barn. This is an ideal place for the storage of the John boat, and a place to fish, even on a rainy day. The sides of the pond near the lawn are gently sloped so that there are no steep drop-offs. If a person or child slips into the water, he can stand up instead of being in deep water. Down the longest stretch of the pond, a 4-foot trench was dug from the center of the pond to the spring feed, so that cool water runs the entire length of the pond. A second, intermittent stream also feeds into the pond. A large culvert was added so that the stream can be crossed to reach the headwaters of the pond. The pond follows the natural curve of the land, and we left trees standing in the rear of the pond. Most of the trees will slowly die, except for willows and bays, which can tolerate the damp soil. The roots of the trees provide cover for young fish to mature. In the future, we may also add cypress trees. The mixture of older tree snags and water-tolerant trees will become a home place for ducks and geese for many years to come. As many people who work outdoors will tell you, Mother Nature is in charge. There was no rain for most of the summer, and conditions were good for building a pond, until we reached a firm handshake on the price for the project. Large equipment was brought in, and then it rained, and rained, and rained. For nearly a year, the project was slowed by heavy rains. The dam slowly rose across the hollow. A weir which would facilitate extra runoff during a heavy rain was built in one corner of the dam. The spillway is a large PVC pipe. Finally, the day arrived to cap the bottom pipe of the spillway, and then it stopped raining, and the sun shined and shined and shined for the next 3 months. As the pond approached completion, I ordered fish from the state of Georgia hatchery. My bluegills, shellcrackers, and catfish were to be ready soon. The pond slowly filled from the spring, and eventually there was enough rain to bring the water level to more than half full. The fish were transported in 50-gallon barrels, each 3/4 full with water. The barrels once contained barbecue sauce. The barrels were cleaned, but we still wonder if the fish will have a nice smoky flavor. We ordered 750 bluegills, 250 shellcrackers, 100 bass, and 100 channel catfish. The bluegills, shellcrackers, and channel cats were added in the fall. The bass were added about 8 months later, after the bluegills had gained some size and went through their first spawning. My expectation was that the fish would be small, but I was surprised by the butterbean size of the bluegills. The catfish were not much larger, but all made the 90-minute ride without any issues. We tempered the water by removing 5 gallons of barrel water and replacing it with 5 gallons of pond water. This process took about 30 minutes in order to ensure that the fish were better acclimatized to the new environment. The fish were released and have begun to grow. Since the pond was once a stream bed, a large number of indigenous minnows and tadpoles were already in the pond. A few months later, we repeated the process with the bass. These seemed even smaller than the catfish, but the hatchery assured us that the bass would grow quickly. In addition to the hatchery fish, we anticipate that the pond will have some natural fish population. The stream bed was originally home to warmouths and redbreast perch, and possibly alligator gar, redfin pike, and eels. After 18 months, the pond has reached full pool and maintains that volume. The bass and catfish are now 8 to 12 inches long, and some of the bluegill are hand-sized. One of my greatest pleasures is seeing my father fish in the pond several times each week. This was once his land, and before that it was his daddy's land, and his granddaddy's land before that. It has been crop farmed, tree farmed, and now I guess it's being fish farmed.
No, 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 no. Woo, these are huge. Ready, bud? Here we go.
There are now 4 generations that enjoy Lake Gino: my father, myself, my son, and my grandson.
No, just let me get the left side.
Alright.
You get the right side, I'll get the left side. Oh. Get the right side.